I'm not a-hole for refusing to take my nieces/nephews out to fun places anymore since my sister won't help with the bill. My little sister has 6 kids, 10 male, 7 female, 6 female plus 6 female, 4 male and 2 female, who I love and babysit when I can. I'm child-free, and my husband and I have a decent amount of fun money saved for us to spend on whatever we want. And I'd use mine sometimes to take my nibblings fun places. I still take them all out somewhere at least 2 to 3 times a month. Now, when it was just the oldest, I'd take him for a day to give my sister and brother-in-law a break. I'd take him to museums, fairs, kids' play places, Chuck E. Cheese, amusement park, etc. With just one kid, it was pretty easy to do. Then the second oldest came along, and I was still able to swing it. But then with the addition of the twins, it became harder to afford. Not to mention watching 4 kids is way harder than watching one. By the time the 4-year-old came around, I couldn't afford to take them all to the same places anymore. It cost too much. So I started taking them cheaper/free places, like the park, free kids' days at the museum, the mall, swimming at my house, etc. Now with the 2-year-old, I've totally stopped taking them anywhere that costs more than a couple bucks each. But last week when I was dropping the kids off at my sister's place, the oldest asked if we could go to the fair next month. I didn't think I'd be able to afford that, but didn't want to outright say no, so I told him I wasn't sure, but would see. After the kids ran off, my sister asked why I wasn't sure about the fair, and I told her I didn't think I'd be able to afford tickets and food for 7 people. She said it couldn't cost that much, so I told her that each ticket was about $10 the last time we'd gone, and that wasn't counting the money spent on food. I said I'd be happy to take them all to the fair if she paid for at least the tickets. She went off saying that she and brother-in-law didn't have that kind of money, how they had 8 mouths to feed and clothes to buy, and she couldn't waste money on the fair. I asked why she thought I was made of money, and she said I had more money than them. And it's not like I have 6 kids to care for. I told her I loved taking the kids out, but if she couldn't help with paying for the expensive places, then the kids would have to be content with going to the park or swimming at my house. Sister said I'm a huge a-hole. And when I told our parents, they said it was sorta a-holish since I only take them out a couple times a month instead of caring for them 24/7 like my sister. So now I don't know. Hub says I'm not the a-hole, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I could swing taking them all to the fair, but it's just so expensive. Am I the a-hole for asking for help paying? Now for the top comments before reading Opie's little update. Not the a-hole. So if she can't afford places like the fair because of having 8 mouths to feed, why does that responsibility have to fall on you? She's being entitled instead of grateful that you've done as much as you have all these years. Being child-free doesn't mean to have all this disposable income to spend on other people's kids, no matter how much you may love them. Not a-hole. OP, you take your nieces and nephews out 2 to 3 times a month, which is far more than most aunts and uncles do. And rather than be grateful, your sister is demanding you do more. Your sister is quick to count and spend your money. I think you've found a very wise solution to continue spending treasured time with your nieces and nephews without breaking the bank. You've done nothing wrong at all. It's your sister who's being an unreasonable a-hole. I grew up very close to my aunt and uncle, and some of my fondest memories with them are from when one or both of them babysat us at their house while my parents were both at work. Mom was a part-time worker, so it only happened occasionally that her and my dad's shifts lined up like that, and would spend time with them. My brother and I would play ball hockey in the basement with my cousin. We'd play GameCube, etc. They don't need to be taken to expensive places to create a strong relationship and happy memories with you. The fact that you want to be so present in their lives is amazing. Trust me, my aunt and uncle passed away now, but I will always have my love and memories with them. And your nieces and nephews will too, whether you pay to take them somewhere or not. Definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. If your sister doesn't have that kind of money, maybe they should stop having children. I'd have stopped at the same point as you. I wouldn't be willing to look after 4 kids even if the tickets were paid for. She should be grateful you're essentially offering free childcare. This. So not only is Opie babysitting 6 children for free, but must also be willing to spend $100 plus as well? 6 kids at the fair may cost $70 to get in, but fair food is also expensive. Plus, I can't even imagine the stress of juggling 6 kids at the fair. Bathrooms alone would be a nightmare. Update. I want to thank everyone for all the amazing comments and DMs. After all the resounding not day hall comments, I've come to the conclusion that I'd become used to my family's treatment of me over the years. I'd always been aware it wasn't really fair, but I put up with it to keep the peace and see my nibblings regularly. But I can't keep spending such outrageous amounts of money on kids that aren't even mine anymore. Especially when I'm not even getting a half-assed thank you in return. It's not fair to me. So I called my sister and told her I won't be taking her kids out for fun days for the foreseeable future. I told her that she's been really entitled to expect me to foot the bill to babysit her kids, and if she apologizes sincerely, then I might start taking them out again sometime in the future. But for now, I'm gonna keep my distance. She didn't take it well, and called me a lot of hurtful names before hanging up on me. Not long after, Mom called me and told me I was being selfish and rude. But I snapped at her that she was being rude. Expecting me to pay upwards of hundreds of dollars a month for kids that I didn't give birth to while cuddling my sister was horrible parenting. And I said how sick and tired I was of being treated like free babysitting for my sister just because I never popped out any grandkids for them. And if she and my sister thought taking all the kids out 3 times a month was no big deal, then I'll send her the bill. Which I did. I sent her pictures of the receipts from the last 3 places I took my nieces/nephews. Each one being no less than $70. She hasn't called or texted me back. I'll just see what happens. But thanks everyone. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to buy stepsister old consoles if he wants her to have them so bad? So I, 16 female, started babysitting 2 years ago. I then moved from that to a retail job back in October. I have saved some money and decided to indulge in getting some vintage consoles. Consoles I missed out on, but see games I want to play. I found places that sell them pretty cheap. I've always been a gamer, and it's the only passion I'm glad I can explore more than the older stuff. Ever since I got a 3DS, not one of the older consoles, but I wasn't allowed to have before, my stepsister, 14 female, has wanted to use them too. Mostly the PlayStation and Nintendo consoles. I have always said no. She's careless and demanding, and to me that's the #1 reason she isn't going to get her hands on them. One day we got into a huge fight over it, and she laid on a guilt trip about siblings always sharing, how I'm her big sister and should include her in this stuff. I told her it wasn't going to work on me. She ran to tell my dad, who has bent over backward for her since he married his wife 5 years ago, and sure enough, he tried to do the same again. He told me they weren't really mine since I was his minor kid, they were his. And he wanted me to share with her. I told him he didn't earn the money, that if he argued about him paying the bills, I could just store them until I move out. He told me to stop being a brat and stop hurting my sister's feelings. I told him if he wanted her to have an older console so much, he needed to go out and buy her one, and let her be careless with that, not with something I paid for. That way, it can be something new to add to the list of things she's broken. Both laptops for virtual learning, the remote for our main TV, the drawer to my desk, 2 of my phones, 6 of her phones, her little keepsake box that my grandparents got for each of us the year my dad married her mom, the family console, 3 discs for video games, and not forget my necklace that my mom bought for me when I was a baby. He told me I should be keeping track, and that they have always done their best to replace what was broken. I replied that he and his wife should teach her how to be less destructive, and it's not my job to do it. Then I pointed out not everything could be replaced or fixed easily. He told me I was behaving like a 6-year-old instead of a 16-year-old, and that I had no right to talk back to him. That was 3 weeks ago, and he's still mad about it. Am I the a-hole for how I talked to him? Not the a-hole. You're actually being very reasonable and articulate about the issue, and your dad is being a child. Yes, siblings normally are encouraged to share, but that's a pretty reasonable worry when the person you're sharing with doesn't have respect for someone else's things. He's mad because you're making sense. Plus, it's retro game consoles, which are like sacred. Not the a-hole. Your stepsister destroyed enough things already. You fearing she would be careful is justified. Store the things and move out. How did they replace something as precious as your mom's gift? They bought one that was like it, but it was never the same. For starters, it was from them and not my mom. I had kept that damn thing safe for 15 years. And then she decides to grab it while I was wearing it and broke the necklace. So she destroyed the necklace from your mom on purpose? Frankly, the whole siblings should always share thing is BS. You're allowed to have your own things, and to set limits in sharing with people who are careless/break stuff. Also, I don't believe for a second that your sister's both that careless and that entitled. Sounds like there's more to the story, and that most likely she's intentionally breaking things and claiming it was accidents. Breaking things during temper tantrums is still intentional, not the a-hole. I don't think she meant to break it, but she also didn't regret breaking it either. I think she just lost her temper because she didn't get what she wanted. And yeah, but still freaking sucks, honestly. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being honest about why we decided on fertility treatment over adoption? My friends and I have always had a mostly negative view on people who exhaust themselves with doing fertility treatments when they can't have kids, instead of just adopting existing children. My husband and I ended up struggling with infertility, so we decided right away to start on adoption first. We tried both a private adoption agency and foster care, and got as far as the home study both times. Our house is old, and there are a lot of weird idiosyncrasies with the house, but we're completely up to date on electrical and plumbing codes, so we thought this would be just a formality. 2 generations of my family grew up there, and it was perfectly safe. Not to them. They had huge issues with the house. They considered 2 of the bedrooms to not be a bedroom because it was too small. They didn't like that the main level floor was uneven. We have a problem with squirrels trapping themselves in the roof somehow, and the social worker was appalled that we just let them scratch themselves out. There's nothing we can do. We don't know how they're doing it, and unless children are squirrels now, no child is getting up there to get stuck that way. It was ridiculous, but it didn't matter. The verdict from both was that our home was fundamentally unsafe. We did look into fixing it. Every single person who ever owned that home had tried to fix the things that were wrong, but we tried again. The house just couldn't be fixed to their standards without becoming actually dangerous. It was fine and safe to live in, but we also wouldn't be able to sell because it was imperfect. The verdict was that if we wanted to adopt a child, we would have to demolish our home to sell the land and then buy a new house on top of agency fees. We did the math. The truth was that, with housing prices in our area, adopting a child would actually cost us at minimum $450,000. Even if we had to do IVF surrogacy, it would only cost us about $130,000. It no longer made any sense to adopt, so we committed to doing treatment. Our total ended up being much less than that because, thankfully, our first round of IVF worked, and we didn't need a surrogate. We now have a child. One of our friends made a very, honestly, ignorant post about spending $100,000 on a child of your own while children sit in foster care. I decided to comment on it, telling her the full story for the first time, explaining how expensive adoption can truly be. There's been a lot of comments, and now she and some of our friends are now mad at me for making adoption look like a bad and terrible thing. I was just trying to show that there isn't one side to this, and that there are valid reasons to make both choices. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I think you and all of your friends are horrible people for sitting in judgment about how people handle their own infertility. I think you're doubly bad for not saying, I've had a change of heart after realizing there's so much I don't understand about adoption and IVF, and instead saying, you don't understand. I'm better than others who choose IVF because in my situation, it's okay. Everyone sucks here. I understand that. My opinions have changed, and I regret how ignorant I was. Everyone sucks here. You're part of a group that habitually judges the family planning of others. You can't be surprised when they then judged you. They didn't have the life-changing experience you did, and therefore haven't changed. It sounds like you all need a wake-up call. When friendships are based on othering others in circumstances you can't imagine, they aren't healthy friendships. Think about if this group is worth your time and learn from your mistakes. I'm sorry things were so difficult for you, and hope your pregnancy goes well. A quirky little house with a squirrel attic sounds like the setting for a children's novel. Not the a-hole. 99% of the people who spout just adopt literally have no idea of how adoption and foster to adopt work. None. Now that you've gone through it, you know it's not the easy path that so many seem to think it is. Long story short, I had both my kids via IVF for about $5,000 out of pocket for IVF through hospital births. That $5,000 wouldn't even have covered a lawyer's retainer and a home study if we wanted to adopt. Plus, my IVF treatments involved me, my husband, and my doctor was only concerned with whether or not I could safely carry pregnancy to term. He didn't care how much I made, what kind of parent he thought I'd be, the state of my marriage, what my house looked like, what my colleagues think of me, etc. For us, IVF was by far the best option. Never judge until you've walked a mile in someone else's shoes. It was ridiculous how much cheaper everything was. I ended up being able to do a home birth with a midwife, so I didn't have the hospital bill. I had been so concerned about the cost, but it was cheaper than I've heard of some people's spontaneous hospital births being. Kind of disturbing, honestly. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for choosing not to follow my in-laws' naming tradition for my daughter? My husband, 24 male, and I, 24 female, had our daughter in November. Early in my pregnancy, my husband told me he would let me choose the name because he really struggled to like names, and he didn't want to make the process more complicated than it needed to be. I chose the name the day we found out she was a little girl. I told my husband, he gave me the thumbs up, and I kept it between us, and my best friend who made her engraved baby blanket. Outside of that, nobody else knew. We announced her name the day after she was born. The name was controversial within my husband's family. Our daughter was the first granddaughter, and we did not go with the tradition in their family of naming the first grandson/granddaughter a specific name. To make sure I'm being clear, in my mother-in-law's family, the first male of each generation is named John, for example, and the first female is named Emily. Mother-in-law's oldest grandson is John, but our baby girl is the first granddaughter and was not called Emily. They are very hurt that I would not honor their tradition. It has become a feud because they feel like I disrespected them, and that I should have wanted my daughter to carry on a long-held family tradition that means so much to the family, and I have struggled with some guilt since. My husband told them it was our decision, and sooner or later the tradition was going to be broken, and I did nothing wrong. But my mother-in-law, and especially my oldest sister-in-law, the mother of John, have not given up. Sister-in-law claims that by using a different family middle name, a name shared by both a grandmother of his and a grandmother of mine, it was an even bigger middle finger to them. I told them she is mine and my husband's daughter, and our wishes should be respected. They claim it was still an a-hole thing. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Repeat after me. I'm sorry you feel that way. Call us when you're over it. This. I hope no one in their family wants to document their genealogy. That would be a nightmare with all those Emilys and Johns. It also becomes a big problem in the digital age with mail, medical records, insurance, etc. Trust me, my husband's grandfather changed his name to a name he liked. Let's say Michael. Then he named his son Michael, and his daughter named her son Michael, and my husband is also Michael. Not one of them goes by Michael except on legal documents. We're constantly getting mail for each other, having to clarify records, etc. Yes, I honestly love my son's name, named the third, but using the family name was a huge mistake. Name Senior is an imprisoned child violator. Name Junior always had issues with background checks before she transitioned to female when our son was 3 years old, and then she hated constantly hearing her dead name. Not Dayhole. This entitled mentality that some family members have over their kids' lives is unbelievable. Name your child what you like and enjoy the good life. Also, congrats. Edit. I might also add that the sister-in-law is probably projecting regret that you did something she wouldn't. I just again am flabbergasted that somebody can expect the name of the child can be defined like that. Not Dayhole. Why do people think that a couple's baby is somehow the possession of the whole family? This is your baby. They don't get a say, period. I can't imagine the entitlement of a family thinking they should have more say over a baby than the baby's own mother.
Am I the a-hole for telling my sister's kids the real reason she got divorced? My sister Lisa, 36 female, just divorced her husband Tom, 38 male. It wasn't a really messy affair, although there was some mudslinging on both sides. She's been running around telling everybody he had an affair, but the truth of the matter is that she's been having affairs for years. He finally found out and decided to end things. Only a few family members know this, and we've all kept quiet to protect her. Lisa and Tom have 2 children, Jake 15 male and Emma 12 female. They have not been handling the divorce well and have acted out quite a bit. Lisa has been portraying herself as the victim, and because of this, the children resent Tom. They won't even want to see him, and when they do, they are openly hostile during the very limited time they have together. Last weekend, I had Jake and Emma over when they first began to vent about their dad. I tried to be objective with them, but they just kept hammering. Jake said, "Mom told us Dad cheated on her, and that is why they split up. I hate him for breaking up our family." Exasperated, I blurted, "Your dad isn't a cheater. It is your mom who has been deceiving you." Well, they were obviously in shock and wanted more, and I told them everything. When Lisa found out, she was furious. She said I had betrayed her and put her children in an even worse position than they were in before. My mom said I did the right thing. My dad thinks I should have kept quiet. Tom is glad it's all out in the open, though he, too, thinks it should have been Lisa who had to tell the truth. Now, Jake and Emma are both bewildered and upset at both of us. They're not talking to Lisa, and that's been very painful for her. She says that I've destroyed her relationship with her kids, that I'll never know what it's like to protect your kids from a painful truth. So, am I the a-hole for telling my sister's kids the real reason that she got divorced? Not the a-hole. She was lying to alienate their dad. She deserves the consequences of her actions. Not the a-hole. Kids deserve the truth, especially if they're being manipulated. Your sister's actions led to this fallout. Every kid needs at least one adult they know will tell them the truth. Not the a-hole. She's so upset that you've ruined your relationship with her kids but had no issue doing that to her ex. First, she has an affair, and then she turns his own children against him. What a witch. You did the right thing. She had an affair in her last relationship as well, and to this day refuses to take responsibility for it. So this sort of behavior isn't anything new. Honestly, if you were my uncle, I'll be happy you actually told the truth to me at the moment instead of me finding out years later. You save his kids from hating their dad and showing them their mom is a lying, manipulative, cheating person. This was me. I lost out on having an amazing father because my mom manipulated us from a young age to hate him. I'll never forgive her for that. It's been almost 20 years since I found out the truth myself through court documents. I cut her off and haven't spoken to her in almost 20 years. Now I don't have either a parent. Why do people have to suck so bad? Next story. Am I the a-hole for blocking my twin because she tried to sleep with my fiancé? For context, my twin and I are identical twins but different heights due to childhood illness. I am shorter and more petite due to the illness, but a healthy 28 female adult. My fiancé 29 male is now my husband. Backstory, my twin and I already had a complicated relationship due to her not respecting boundaries, expecting me to be available whenever she wanted, and having hissy fits anytime I spent time with my own friends. But then canceling our plans an hour after we were supposed to meet to spend time with our friends. This was a continual ongoing issue throughout our whole lives. I should be available to her 110% of the time, hate any friends I made, hate any guy I dated. I should only want to be with her. Cue in my husband. My husband is an amazing, patient, handsome, fun-loving man. I cannot ask for a better life partner. When we started dating, my twin reacted to him like all of my exes, interrogated him, assumed he was going to be abusive for X number of reasons, hostile, etc. To clarify, my husband is not abusive. My husband, knowing that being close to my family is really important to me, did his best efforts to get my twin's approval. He jumped through all the hoops and trials, and even made friends, or so he thought, with my twin. He is now also really close with my parents and grandparents and sees them regularly even if I'm at work. My twin is also married, was engaged at a time, so we thought nothing of her now being friendly with my husband. One evening, while my husband and my twin were hanging out, roommates at a time / separate bedrooms, they had a good chat about life. When they went to hug goodnight, my twin pressed her boobs on my husband, said, "I appreciate what we have, whatever this is," and tried to kiss him. My husband rejected her advances and then called me immediately afterwards. I was at work. I tried asking my twin what happened for context, and she just gaslit me about it. Days and weeks following that night, she started telling everyone that my husband is a pervert and pedophile because he married me who looks like a child, even though I am 28. And has created more rumors since. We don't live together anymore. She also had a meltdown right before my wedding and has been super petty since. I have now blocked her because she refuses to apologize for trying to sleep with my husband and spreading rumors. Am I the a-hole? She's taking her time, but eventually she'll think to say to you, I was testing him. I wanted to make sure he wouldn't cheat on you. He passed. OP needs to learn to stop putting her husband in awkward situations. It's OP's mess to fix, and that'll start with distancing from said twin. Blocking is a good start. Next is telling everyone what happened, history of similar occurrences, and warning everyone not to act as sisters flying monkeys. If twin never faces any consequences for being a sister, why would she bother changing? This is very true. OP's an a-hole for allowing her sister to treat her husband this way. As soon as she started calling him abusive, OP should have put proper boundaries in place. Husband is fortunate sister didn't try and falsely accuse him of something. I would be furious with my partner if they put me in this situation with their family. You really wrote this entire thing because you genuinely thought you're in the wrong, or you just wanted to vent? Honestly, more so vent. My parents were really trying to push me into reconnecting with my twin, because now she is all sad and depressed because I'm not talking to her. They have always prioritized protecting her feelings and telling me, well, that's just how she is anytime she acts the way she does. Edit. The people asking about her husband's thoughts on it. My twin essentially has told her husband nothing happened, that she did not hit on my husband, that my husband is lying, etc. Her husband believes her and is also pushing the rumors that my husband is a pedo, etc. Her husband spent so much time trying to talk my husband at the family get-together that different individuals asked them to stop talking about my husband and I because they were getting so annoyed. It's also how my husband and I found out about the rumors. None of my other siblings believe or agree with the rumors that my twin and husband have spewed. Honestly, the only people still defending my twin and her husband's actions are my parents. More edit. I have definitely cut my twin and her husband out of my life. This is more of event post. For those asking about setting boundaries prior to this block, I'd already had many arguments with my twin about her behavior and how I was done with it. She continually stepped over those boundaries. The final straw was her trying to sleep with my husband. I'd ask her multiple times over the phone, with already limited contact, to apologize to him. During the family get-together, it was a final Hail Mary to get her to admit to her and apologize, which she did not. Lead to an official absolute block, only to find out about the rumors afterwards. Despite this, my parents want to try and mend things with my twin, which is an absolute no on mine and my husband's end. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to mend things with my daughter? My ex and I, 49 male, were married for 2 years and had a daughter before I discovered her affair. But she took her own life during the divorce. I stayed close to my in-law because I didn't want to take away their granddaughter. But that was a mistake, because they secretly hated me and were turning my daughter against me. By the time I found out, it was too late, and daughter hated me. She was fighting with me, broke many things in the house, and ran away multiple times. I tried to explain to her what happened, but she wouldn't believe me. My family also tried in vain. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and let her go live with her grandparents, and she cut all contact with me. After a year of waiting, I had enough and moved to Canada to try to rebuild my life. She was 14 when I left. Recently, I learned that my father passed away and I wanted to fly back. But my brother told me that my daughter would be present. Apparently, as she grew up, she understood many things and realized her grandparents were lying. She cut contact with them and was rebuilding a relationship with my brother and father. They didn't let her contact me because I was still in a bad place. And frankly, I still am. I'm not sure I want her in my life again. I know she was just a kid back then, and now she's an adult, 22 female now. But even with that, I'm not sure. I need advice. Opinion. Go if you want to go, just don't expect your daughter to stay away. She realized the truth and fixed her relationship with your brother and father. She's allowed to be there and grieve as well. I don't think it would be inappropriate for you to ask your brother if he could tell her that you want her to stay away from you, but he may not want to get involved, and that's his right. Advice: get into therapy. I don't know what happened to you, but if it was so bad that you're still in such a bad place that you don't know whether to go to your family because your father died, and you might have to encounter the child who hurt you, it sounds like you need real help coping and moving on. I'm not trying to be mean or sarcastic with this. I'm genuinely concerned for you in this situation. They didn't let her contact me because I was still in a bad place. Good to know his family has his back. His brother can help communicate to her that OP needs time and space. All these years of pent-up feelings of hurt and betrayal don't disappear fast. She's an adult now and will be able to understand that her father's healing is just as important as the reconciliation. I love that the brother was looking out for all parties involved and that OP recognized that his act was selfless and in protection of both OP and the daughter. That's pretty rare. I would like to buy that gem of a man a beer or two. Maybe my comment won't be seen, but this happened to me and now as your daughter. My dad and his family poisoned me against my mom once she became schizophrenic, and I was a god-awful daughter to her time of need. But I too realized I was being lied to and crawled back to her when it was admittedly too late. I feel that guilt and that pain every day, all the time, even though she's forgiven me and wants us to be okay again. I am so guilty for the time lost. And I know it's hard, but it wasn't your daughter's fault. It was the fault of her mother's family. She already lost her mom. I know how hard it would be for you to connect with her again, but I'll promise it'll be so good for you and her. Give her a chance, man. I know I needed it. I work in social services and have a similar story myself, so I've seen a lot of stuff. I really want you to know that they poisoned you, because as a child your brain hadn't yet developed fully. They guided you to these beliefs intentionally. They brainwashed you. It's not as simple as, they told me this and I foolishly believed it. The people responsible for helping you learn to interpret the world around you messed with your head. The person you are today sees the flaws in the logic. You might look back and feel stupid or feel like you should have seen what was going on, but that's because your grown-up brain has kicked in. Your kid brain had no chance. You have nothing, not a damn thing, to feel guilty over. I'm sorry that you lost those years, but please don't spend the years you do have feeling guilty. You deserve to have a joyous relationship with her now. You can't get the time back, but you can make up for it by enjoying her now. Massive hugs to both of you. Edit. I am quite surprised by the replies. I ask for help with my daughter and what I get are attacks to my manhood. It is quite funny when I received messages of people insulting me and telling me to grow up when these people are reaching out to me and insulting me because they were displeased by my story. A story they saw on internet too. The adult thing to do would have been to simply not reply. Thanks to those who provide answers and support. I really appreciate it. Anyways, I called my brother back and we agreed that we will try to repair our relationship after the funeral. For now, we will mourn my father. Last story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend after she set up cameras in our apartment in case I abused her? I need help. I'm male 25 and my ex-girlfriend is female 24. We were together for 3 years and marriage was definitely in our future. Basically, my ex always loved true crime, but she was really getting into DV true crime. She had been down her DV rabbit hole for about 4 to 6 months. I want to say before she really started acting weird with me. She didn't want me to have her location, which we mutually had for safety purposes. She was telling her mom, sister, and friends everything I did. She was being skittish around me, kept a diary when she had never had one before, and would basically just be overly cautious around me. I'm not sure how to describe it. You could just see she was being weird. Even at gatherings, my family asked me if we were fighting because she seemed overly cautious around me and was only sticking with the women. It was really starting to get to me, but I didn't want her suspicions to be right, so I didn't do anything about it. She had told me that as a man, I have to understand that DV happens all the time. Even perfect men suddenly ends up abusers, and that I was no different. It really got to me. All I could think then, and even now, is that I'm nothing like those men. I get that it could be anyone, but seriously? I don't even kill bugs. I take them outside. She had never been in an abusive relationship either. This behavior was so unlike her, but I felt like there was nothing I could do because of her position. If I reacted badly, she would be right, and I know I'm not an abuser, so I just took it. We had been together for 3 entire years, and she really thought that I would suddenly abuse her? I've never raised my voice at her, and I came from a broken home with DV. She knows about that. I would never treat a woman, or child, man, or animal that way. A few days ago, she put up cameras and I noticed pretty quickly because she didn't hide them well. When I confronted her, she told me it was for her safety and peace of mind, and that if I wanted them gone, I don't care about her safety. I got really freaking angry, but I got this moment of clarity all of a sudden. It was like all the anger left my body as quick as it came and I understood. All those months hit me like a train and I was over it all. I didn't yell, didn't react, I just said that we were over. I told her that I couldn't be with someone who thought of me as an abuser. I didn't take any of my things, I just left to stay at my parents' house. She's been telling her family that I'm an abuser and I've gotten a few semi-threatening calls and texts from her brothers. I'm really torn up about it, and I'm feeling like a real a-hole now. Her texts range from, "I'm sorry, I know you're not an abuser," to how I never cared about her and that she was right about me all along. Why did she convince herself that I would abuse her? I had never ever laid my hands on her, nor have I ever yelled at her. If something was wrong, we handled it like adults, not dysfunctional teens. I miss her a lot and I'm starting to regret it all. I should have just let her put the cameras up. That probably isn't a self-respecting choice, but I really loved my girlfriend and I understood to an extent. Not the a-hole. This person is unhinged. I'm a woman who enjoys true crime. This is so weird. He's lucky he got out when he did. This was all about her fantasizing about being an abuse victim and setting him up to become one. Even now, she's told others that he's an abuser, while telling him secretly that he isn't one. She's in it for the attention and is in desperate need of therapy. OP should not be alone with her, talk to her in text, because she is going to turn this around on him and paint him as the abuser now that is walking out the door. Not the a-hole. 100% this. 6 more months and he could be walking away with a criminal record after she bruises herself and files a police report. Wannabe victims will find ways to be victims. Not the a-hole. It won't stop with the cameras. Pretty soon it will be financial abuse when you don't buy her a new dining room table. Everything you will do will be emotional abuse. She's already lying about you. I will guess that she is a high anxiety person, but that won't give you any peace. Sorry, it is time to walk away. When you go back to get your stuff, be sure that you have a witness. Take your mom. By the way, she is committing emotional abuse against you with the lies to her family. Yep, she is the abuser. And also borderline criminal. Now she's going around making false accusations. The cameras could also be violating laws. OP needs to get a police escort, get his stuff, then cut off all contact forever.